A painter's passion for fishing is an easy passion to understand if the painter lives on the Yellowstone River in Montana. They call it Paradise Valley, and it is a kind of paradise for an artist seeking the inspiration of the mountains, or for a fisherman seeking to fool a wise old trout with a little bit of floating fur and feather. Russell Chatham is both artist and fly fisherman, and so he lives here. Once he lived somewhere else, but it's hard to imagine. The sun and rain and rushing rivers of this country have worked their way into his soul and onto his canvases. Looking at Russell Chatham's paintings is like listening to a muted horn, all restraint and simplicity and respect for the composer. The composer, in this case, being millions of years of nature's working.
I tend to be drawn along by the feeling and the moods that I'm seeing, and then the paintings suddenly take on, you know, the green of the fields and the sunlight and so forth. Given the fact that my work is directly related to the landscape, every minute that I spend outside, you know, out in it, is going back to the well and pulling in information all the time, visual information. When you're in that studio, that windowless studio, and you start to put something on a canvas, these pictures just come back out, you know. But if they didn't go in the first place, they can't come out.
That's about as much as Russell Chatham ever says about his painting. He doesn't like the formal talk of the Academy. He doesn't like the competitiveness of the New York art world. He likes where he is, which is in Livingston, Montana. You know about the starving artist living in a garret? Well, 20 years ago, when Russell Chatham was starving in California, he figured, why live in a garret when you can live in Montana?
It wasn't a romantic move. It was a practical move.
To come here.
To come here, because in order for me to do what I do, which was to paint and ultimately write and do nothing else, I had to be in a place where I could afford to live, you see. So it was a combination of the physical beauty and the space and the practical matter of being able to simply afford it.
It must have been a little scary, though, because you weren't sure you could make a living painting.
I was certain I couldn't. No, so it wasn't scary at all. My goal was not to achieve wealth or really even make a living or to become well known. It was simply to be able to work, to paint the paintings that I wanted to paint, and you know, and have a nice life.
48% of normal.
In his early years in Montana, Russell Chatham sold a few paintings to neighbors like the actor Peter Fonda, but he swapped most of his work for whatever he needed at the moment.
I've never seen Deep Creek because I've only been here 17 years.
It doesn't, Deep Creek usually doesn't get money. I've really traded for almost everything. I could trade for medical services, you know, for food and auto repairs, books, you name it, fishing tackle. I got all my fishing tackle through trading. People love to horse trade, you know.
I think those tradesmen got a pretty good deal.
Some of them did. Some of them did, yeah. But I don't feel cheated. Not at all.
Now people stand in lines, in very long lines, to buy Russell Chatham paintings. Galleries in faraway cities like Seattle draw enthusiastic crowds to see his latest work. But even in the galleries, he's never very far from the trout streams.
You know the creek through the Bozeman Pass?
Yeah.
Caught a 5-pound rainbow out of there one day.
Really?
Yeah.
This is for you because I don't think you've been getting out enough.
I like that.
Yes.
You know, I used to use a fly exactly like that on the Clearwater. That's a good one. I'll use that.
Yeah, it'll remind you to get out a little more often, huh?
Really, Russell Chatham doesn't need to be reminded to go fishing. He knows the secret of the trout fisherman, that trout cannot live except in beautiful places. So if you're fishing for trout, you're in a beautiful place. Are these all rainbows in here?
No, there's some browns in here. It's probably about, I don't know, maybe 2/3 rainbows, 1/3 browns.
Are there any brook trout in these little creeks?
There's some deep beaver ponds on up the valley here that have brook trout in them.
They're my favorite. I think
I
they're the
love
prettiest
brook trout.
fish.
Fishing keeps me alive, just as painting does. And it's not like a casual hobby to me. I mean, it's just like breathing, you know. I mean, I really need it. So I make a conscious effort to fish. You know, it bears equal weight on the calendar. In fact, it's top priority.
He doesn't have to trade paintings for food and auto parts and fishing gear anymore. In fact, he's probably in terrible danger of getting rich. If he does, it won't change his life. To keep up with the growing demand for his work, he's begun producing a series of lithographs. And the artist and fisherman is also a writer.
This is just a section of a story that I wrote called Summer and Other Small Things. My career as a lake fisherman came to an end the time I decided to get serious about largemouth bass fishing by driving up to Clear Lake. That was the year I turned 16. Applied for a driver's license and bought a very used 1946 Plymouth. I convinced my
He has taken to giving readings in support of his 4-year-old publishing company, Clark City Press, an outlet for his own writing and that of some of his friends and neighbors.
I had a couple of books of my own I wanted to put back in print, and then a couple of other ideas occurred to me, and it sort of snowballed. And now it's actually a functioning printing company.
He's a good writer and a thoughtful publisher and locally famous as a fisherman. But luckily, the wild landscapes he breathes in every day finally get breathed out onto canvas. The man is a painter.
It's what gives me the most satisfaction. A deep down satisfaction that this is what you were intended to do, and you can do it. And you know, you sit there and somehow you throw a little red in there and a little green. You make these colors, and you get 2 or 3 colors going on there, and they just start to sing, you know. And you get it's a thrill, like going over a roller coaster, you know. And I think maybe that's all it is. It's like you're thrilling yourself, you know.